hunger inside all of us. This longing to awaken our truest selves. This hunger to feel truly free. This desire for love, truth, and freedom has driven us to never stop searching. We are a family. These are our stories, our questions, and our passions. So welcome to the conversation. Welcome to somewhere in the in-between.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to
Hello.
the podcast.
Yes.
Or maybe not welcome back. Maybe welcome for the first time.
Yes, that's true.
Today we are talking about something that we are all extremely passionate about, I feel, and that is the topic of gratitude. And I feel like that's a word that's just really
It's kind of thrown around a lot.
Oh,
thrown
yeah.
around, like be grateful.
I
be
almost
grateful.
hate using that word
I do
sometimes.
too. It's a little bit like I get a little bit on edge.
It's
even
a
to be
little
like,
cringy for me. I'm like, oh, and positivity and
Yes.
yeah.
Because even I
yeah.
feel like if I heard an intro like that, I'd be like, probably
yes,
turn off.
yeah,
Like I
yes.
know that's funny. Like,
Yeah.
but I think I'd be like,
Maybe we
eh.
shouldn't name it even about gratitude. Maybe we
Right.
should like hide the name. You
Right?
know?
It's like sneaking the supplement into the piece of cheese for the dog. Like when you're sneaking something in, crushing up aspirin and yogurt.
Exactly.
No, but like for us, so just to dive into like what gratitude, what we mean by that. It's not simply the, well, everything's going bad, but just ignore it and be grateful. Just, I don't know.
Not
like,
about delusion.
No.
It's not about like.
It's not about ignoring what's really going on
Yes.
in
Yeah.
your life or around you, because I think that's probably where that feeling comes up in all of us, is because it has been, well, just be grateful, be thankful.
Well, because think of how many times even growing up or even like talking to people, if you're like dealing with your pain or like talking about a story and someone will just be like, be grateful. You have so much to be grateful. Hey, you're not like that. Let me tell you a story of a person who's really in pain and your life doesn't
It
look
actually
like theirs.
negates your pain.
Oh my gosh.
It's almost like people use it to dismiss the pain you're currently in.
Yes.
But for us, what we're trying to do, and even presenting it today, is showing how gratitude can be an anchor in life, not an excuse to dismiss what's going on. And also not to go the other way, because as we're talking about our journeys of healing and, when you go in and do the deep work, when you're going in to do the harder, like looking at the harder things in your life and the more difficult emotions and even the painful places, it's like gratitude, I've found, when used properly, is an amazing balancer in life.
It's like an anchor.
Yeah.
It is.
It's very grounding.
It is very much so. And so we're not using gratitude as a blanket to cover anything. No. And even in our other, episodes, we're not just talking about all the deep stuff. This here, gratitude, is what allows us to do the work without getting lost in it.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, because the way I view like even the deep dive into wounds and pain and trauma, I always feel like it's like this, like this dark, like when you're a kid and you're watching a movie or reading a book and it's like always like the ominous dark woods, and like an old story. Like that to me is what the initial deep dive into past pains or whatever feels like. And so often you can look at it in the beginning and be like, oh my gosh, if I step into that, I'm going to get lost there. I'm never going to find my way out. I'm just going to float away and be stuck in this darkness forever. You're going to be lost in the woods. And to me, and I feel like for all of us, as we've talked over the years, gratitude is kind of becomes this grounding tool, but also kind of the true north that helps this is a season. These dark, scary woods. It's a moment in time, and gratitude's like I always feel like it's pulling my heart through the dark woods instead of making me feel like I'm going to be lost here forever, and simply allowing like me to not feel like, like I'm going to get lost there. So it's simply, to me, it's a tool. It's not a blanket statement to ignore your pain and move on. Which it has been abused. To me, the concept of gratitude has been very abused.
I think
over the
the
years.
majority of it that I've seen has been abused. Is that it is used in that like just the positivity message of just like, oh, come on, you have to, like we were saying earlier. And I think even what you were saying with the groundedness, it's almost like the idea of trying to jump a car when you haven't grounded the other, clamp, and you just lock into something, whether it's the pain or the, any situation without grounding, you are literally sending your system even into overdrive potentially, or even to die.
You're gonna blow up.
Yeah, and that's where this work can look really scary, and it can be overwhelming. And if you don't have an anchor like this that is literally grounding you, I think it shouldn't be done without it.
Oh, 100%.
And I think that there's something that I don't know. It's very important.
Well, it's what you just said. Trying to look at an issue. So say you're always noticing. It's like we said, being a student of yourself. Say you're always noticing. Like for me, it was like growing up. Like, man, I have these amazing parents and am raised in a good home, but I had insane amounts of self-hatred. Mm-hmm. Where was that coming from? You just try to, be grateful or just ignore it or whatever. When I was finally ready to do the deep dive into like, I'm going to face it. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to walk into the scary woods, and I'm going to go there. Gratitude for me actually helped me not to get lost, because a lot of times you can get tunnel vision. A lot of times you can be so consumed with, okay, if I'm finally going to look at my pain of self-hatred, I had to acknowledge some traumas that had happened to me at a very young age. So then I could have gotten tunnel vision in the trauma and then been lost there forever.
Well, that's what trauma does. Like when you're in fight or flight, you really actually literally do go into tunnel vision. So your body, so that's how you survive, is you can't go, your actual like ears shut down, your vision shuts down to only single focus onto what that one area is.
Because fight or flight is telling your brain, run away, you're in danger, correct?
Yeah, you're being chased by a tiger.
So the reality is, once I locked into, I'm going to deal with this old trauma, I'm going to dive into old memories, I'm going to finally deal with what I am feeling through sessions, kept coming up as the root of my self-hatred. Mm-hmm. And it's true. Like it's so easy to go, oh, this is me forever.
Right.
And now it's so easy to lose sight of any good in your life.
Yeah.
Suddenly that becomes the only picture you see. You don't see the good. You don't see all the good that did happen in your life. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to forget all the love I did have, all the good things I did have. And for me, doing a practice, a daily, multiple times a day practice of, for me, it was, and I guess I'll just dive into it. For me, when I was diving into, say specifically that feeling of self-hatred and just misery, I was just miserable in that area. And it wasn't everywhere. You just see it kind of sneak up in different times. But it was a pattern. It was a big pattern. And I started doing this thing where I had gotten tunnel vision big time. Yeah. And I had noticed it had gone on for a while without me fully being conscious of it. And I just started noticing I was getting more and more negative and more like everything's awful and everyone's against me. And even I started getting really angry at even God and started being like, he's this jerk in the sky who doesn't even care about me. And like, he's never, and so you start writing the new narrative to your past. So then I started narrating each year going back. And that year he didn't care for me either. Right. And then that year my parents didn't care about me. And you start re-narrating your life story based on this thing that just starts taking over all your memories. Mm-hmm. And I started noticing I had such bad tunnel vision that I no longer felt I had any access to even, for me, when I'd go and try to pray or go and try to do anything, it was like silence. It was like I started noticing one day, it was just the ceiling. It was this dark wall. There was nothing there. And I was so angry and so upset and just like, forget it. I'm gonna, burn the bridge and walk away. And you just, there's this temptation to just move on. And I remember one day going, how either I'm going to fully detach because this is getting so painful and I don't know how this got away from me, or I somehow have to start taking steps back to figure out how I got here. And I thought one day, like, oh, okay, what if I just take every day and start trying to pay attention to something I could be grateful for? If I could bring back the narrative that there are good things in my life. And literally the first like week, I was just really angry about it. And I was like, there's nothing. I can't point out one thing that's even good, you know, because I had so much tunnel vision. And
also, how was that narrative serving you in wanting to feel not powerful?
Yeah.
Like, we have to think of those narratives sometimes when we hold on to that negative narrative. I've noticed that for me, when I'm feeling powerless, I keep the narrative of being powerless because it feeds something in me to stay powerless.
It felt a little bit good to throw myself a few month-long pity party.
Sometimes we like pity parties, and I think we have to look at how that narrative is serving us.
And like, if I'm going real deep, to be honest, I actually thought it would be kind of nice to like punish the people around me and even punish God.
Right?
Like, you think I'm going to be grateful? Heck no, I'm going to be miserable. Yeah. Like, serves you right, man. Yeah. Had you wanted me to be happy, you would have fixed these situations.
Totally. Oh,
and I was throwing this little like self-righteous pity party, thinking that that'll show him.
Like, we think we'll hold other people hostage to what we need, when really we're the only ones who need to do the work. Absolutely. And then things around us will evidently change, or they won't change and we won't care anymore.
Right.
Because we've changed.
Yes. Yes. I know. So I had a whole lot of things going on in that season. And I finally each day was like, I literally was like, I can't find one thing to be grateful for, because I had let this thing run away from me for so long. I created that pathway. I could not think of one thing. I'm not like actually making that up. I actually couldn't find one thing to be grateful for. And so I sat there and thought. And one day I turned around and I looked at my bedroom set. I love my bedroom set. And I turned around and I was like, okay, I've always wanted, this was my dream bedroom set. You know, I got it years ago and I felt so stupid, but I was like, I could be grateful for this bedroom set, that I could be grateful for that. And I spent a month every day, because I couldn't think of anything else. Every day I'd be like, I'm grateful for my bed. You know, like, I'm grateful for my bedroom set. And, you know, definitely without a good attitude. But I just kept thinking, I didn't want to be there anymore. I found this little choice in my brain that just went, but I don't want to be so miserable. Mm-hmm. And so after that, then like, probably after like 2 or 3, I kid you not, like 2 or 3 weeks of that, I found something else little. But it was mostly things I would have to kind of scan my house or my life and just kind of go, oh, okay, I'm grateful. And little by little, it started to get me out of fight or flight, and it started getting me out of tunnel vision and re-grounding me, because the pain had really ungrounded me, and it ungrounded me very, very quickly without me even consciously realizing that it had swept me away into a storyline of self-pity and life is horrible and nothing good has ever happened to me. And gratitude was the only thing, a practice of gratitude became the only thing that got me back on track, so that I could re-dive into those memories, re-dive into my pain, and stay grounded this time without it sweeping me away.
Right.
And for me, that was huge for me.
Right.
And it still is huge for me. I practice gratitude almost daily. It's a little bit easier now, I think, now that I've been, when you're in a practice a lot, you don't have to so consciously.
You're more in a habit now of it. But
the other thing is too, just scientifically, like, because I know a lot of times we're talking about the spiritual, emotional aspect. Gratitude has a lot of scientific benefits. Yeah. So the thing about, I'm reading it off the computer, so that's why I'm looking over here. I had to write this down because I'm not a scientist.
She's not a Sarah Barlow.
I'm not a scientist who does experiments.
I definitely thought you were.
On humans and lab rats. So
you looked at Alyssa when you said lab rat.
I know, that was so offensive. You were the human and I was the lab rat.
Yes.
But I'm great. Hold on.
But if you look at the
grateful that rats can be adorable.
Well, I was thinking like,
and
who likes cheese a lot?
I like vegan cheese.
Okay, calm down, you vegan rat.
I am grateful
Look at this practice. Look at it. We're like living it out.
Actually, if you could cause some trauma right now,
We're gonna give a live example.
Okay. All right. I really should have come with like better zingers. You just kidding. Okay.
Vegan rat's pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty good. So when we express gratitude, our brain actually releases dopamine and serotonin, which are two crucial neurotransmitters responsible for our emotions. It actually enhances our mood immediately. So even in gratitude, our brain is releasing the chemicals to actually make us happier.
Yes.
But the other thing is we cannot focus on positive and negative information at the same time. And when we're looking at positive things, we're actually creating new pathways in our brain, which is why at first we literally have to create that pathway. Yes. When you're creating anything in life, when you're creating something, it takes a lot.
Again, it's the same as building muscle.
It
if
is.
It's not there. It's not there in the beginning. So when you start lifting
No.
weights, it's excruciating.
Right.
You feel like I can't get through another day of this.
Right. So when we're negative all the time, if we're always thinking, if we're being anxious, which I understand because I've dealt with anxiety, if all we're doing is going, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. Oh my gosh, we're creating a pathway. And so that pathway gets to be a very easy road that we are used to traveling on. So that's our new normal. Our new normal is the anxiety. Our new normal is thinking of the negative.
Because didn't you say 95% of our responses are coming from the subconscious?
Yes.
So
Yes.
if that pathway becomes habitual,
Right.
if the pathway of negativity is a habit that we have invested in that habit, because we invest in every habit. So then we are constantly coming from a subconscious place at that point and walking that path every morning, every day, and every evening without even realizing it at that point.
Keep bringing in the same life,
Yeah.
basically,
And
or
then
the
we-
same habits
Yeah.
as negativity as we have every other day. But I think with that though, with the this programming of that 95% and even this being a habit, I do. Before I click into gratitude, I still always acknowledge that feeling. I still say, okay, whether it's whatever it may be, rejection or something, and I say, okay, I feel rejection. I'm going to still feel it throughout my whole body. I'm still going to acknowledge it. And I'm actually going to be grateful that I can recognize it. And I can still say, you know what? I'm thankful even for this situation that's happening right now to show me that this is going on in my body. And so I'm not going to push it away. I'm actually kind of integrating gratefulness within the emotion. And so then it actually doesn't have a hold on you.
I was going to say, because then that negative emotion of feeling rejection, you're actually not going to become rejectable or rejection. You're not going to like carry it with you. You can notice it, but gratitude gives perspective.
Right.
So you're able to be grateful that you noticed that you were feeling that way. It almost like, I feel the more I was even studying about it and the more we've been talking about it, it's so powerful. And it's actually even the fact that we can retrain our minds. Scientifically, we can create new pathways. Do we understand the power that we have as human beings, of the power that we have of going, I don't have to think that thought. I don't have to feel that way. I have control over these things in my life. And I just have been in awe of the actual beautiful power that we have to change things and make things beautiful and to face pain but feel gratitude, to be in relationships where people are bringing things up in you, but to be grateful for them that they're bringing things up in you and not writing them off. Like gratitude makes this process so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love it.
It's really true.
Well, I think even what you were saying, Sarah, like for me, again, I've been in a situation the last few years of just the most intense rejection of my life. And, you know, kind of the same thing. I felt, you know, we're always at a crossroad. Do I look at that thing and either just go, well, I'm grateful it's not as bad as that person's story? Do I look at that situation and go, well, I'm just going to give myself to the negative thoughts and negative emotions and feel extremely powerless and let it sweep me away? Or do I introduce gratitude into this place of pain? And what would that look like? What does that even look like to introduce gratitude? And so one day I was laying there meditating going, okay, I've been doing all these sessions and, you know, doing all this inner work with people and these different healers, but I needed to bring in a practice in my everyday of how I could view this thing. So I was laying there and, you know, I do the thing where I turn on the music and left hand on my stomach, right hand on my heart, and I'm breathing in and I'm thinking, I have to view this situation differently. So I collected all the rejection that's coming at me right now. Like I just collected, I mean, visually. I'm a very visual person. So I like to kind of see my inner healing unfold like I would be watching a movie, right? So I'm very dramatic. So I play like cinematic music and picture it like a movie. So I see this thing, and the only way to describe what I feel is it's like this swirling, dark, massive tornado. And the tornado to me takes up my entire vision. Like it goes like past the frames, right? Past the sides. Like it's huge. And that means to me, it feels like it's uncontrollable. I can't control it. I can't change it. I can't fix it. And it feels like it could destroy me if I would get swept up by it. So I'm looking at this thing and listening to the music and just in a state of meditation. And I was like, I've got to change how I view this. And I've got to learn to bring in gratitude. And I saw me walking up to this tornado and I put my arms around it and I hugged it. And I was like, thank you for expanding my love walk. And I realized in that moment that the thing that this rejection is bringing me is an understanding of love and forgiveness I've never been required to access.
Absolutely.
And it's opened my heart to the fact that I thought I was the most loving person.
Sure.
And I realized I'm not. I realized there are massive boundary lines to how much love I had for people. Yeah. And this storm is expanding my heart. It's expanding my ability to love people who have turned their backs on me, who have rejected me, who have condemned me in ways I never thought was possible from people that said they loved me. And it's amazing that is now something I've been doing for about 2.5 years now, 3 years, especially when I feel I'm hitting a new layer of my need for healing, my need to go through something. I will lay there and I will meditate on the storm and I will go thank it for what it is about to expand in me. And in that moment, I have to tell you, it's like what you said, Lauren, I feel that I remember I'm powerful.
Yes.
And it grounds me, and I feel like, oh my gosh, no, I cannot control the storm, but I can control my response. Right. I can change me. And I'm emerging from this season a stronger, more confident version of myself than I've ever been. Yeah. And so for that, I can thank the storm.
Yeah. Right. Well, because in that practice, you actually, in that gratitude, you're bringing yourself into the present. Versus you're not living in all this stuff that has happened or is happening, you know. Yes. You're bringing yourself into the truth right then and there, which is that you can look at all of these things that are happening and with gratitude see how it's transforming you, how it's growing you and all that. But it's actually, you can't, when you're in that ruminating fight or flight place, you know, that can overtake you, and that's why people get depressed or they get swept away or whatever. But that gratitude brings you into that actual present moment. And
that's interesting. Yeah. So to pause there for a minute. So when I'm processing all the pain, right? The pain of the past. Mm-hmm. So you're saying, like, subconsciously now we're just living in the mess of all that pain. Yes. So we actually aren't present.
Right.
And then in that pain, we're probably, again, like what we even said before, then we're gearing up and
predicting our
future.
Predicting
the future.
Yeah. Predicting that it's going to be the exact same thing.
So gratitude brings you to the present.
Yeah.
Which is the only place I believe we actually have power. Mm-hmm. Because I don't have power in the future. No. I don't have power in the past.
Exactly.
So right now is where my strength is. Yes. Right now is where I have control of my narrative, of what's going to happen, of how I perceive something, how I process something. So until we remove the narrative from the past and the future and just get in the present, we don't have power. Mm-hmm. But I believe that gratitude is what brings us into the present.
It is. It actually scientifically shows that it is.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Didn't you read a study? You were reading me a study this morning about 2 different groups of people had to journal.
Yes. And so
No,
let's see
it's
if I remember
yeah.
it, but one of they were kind of dealing with anxiety. They were dealing with depression. They were dealing with a lot of different things. And one group of people was had to keep a gratitude journal, which is just, not just like I'm thankful for this. You actually have to like deep dive into the gratitude. It's like I can't just be like I like my sister. I have to be like today.
Give me more. Say more.
It's going to be like go ahead.
Well, no, it's even like the difference is probably feeling it in your body
Yes.
or the full expression or the full bodily feeling of that.
Right. Because then they're like, you can't just be like I said, like, I can't just be like, I love Alyssa or I'm grateful for Alyssa. I have to be like, today I was really struggling and Alyssa saw that I was struggling. And then she brought me a meal. Cookies.
We'll say cookies. I would have baked you cookies.
You would have made me cookies.
Yeah.
And then you go off on a tangent of like, this is all that she did for me. And it made me feel so seen and so loved. And so when you keep a gratitude journal, that's how you have to do it. You can't just be like, I'm thankful for this. It's like the narrative, the story. And so then the other group of people in this study had to just say, keep a journal of what they were actually feeling. Keep a journal of the thing, like actually like, I'm really angry about this, or I was triggered today in this. And the people that strictly focused on the negative, they actually physically did not heal as quickly as the people.
And you said they didn't have as much drive or passion,
enthusiasm
for life.
Right, compassion, everything as the people that still were going through healing but saw gratitude in the healing. But if you're just focused on the negative, if you focus on gratitude while you're healing, they're saying that they see results that you can actually heal quicker and get out of these things a little bit more quickly than the people that are just seeing negative. But that's hard because it's so easy to just see the negative when you're in pain.
Oh, absolutely.
It's easy to get bitter.
Yeah.
or when you feel like a situation's happening that is so far outside of your control,
Right.
that it almost feels like a betrayal of yourself to find something to be grateful for that
Yeah.
person.
Oh, absolutely.
It actually feels like a betrayal. Like if I would actually sit for a minute and be grateful about something with that person that in my storyline has to be the villain or has to be the bad guy, I feel like I'm actually betraying the narrative to my own story.
Yeah.
And so everything in you goes so into fight or flight because you're like, I can't do that. They have to be the villain. And you can't say something nice about the villain.
Right.
And so that part is then it keeps you in a cycle of negativity really only affects you. I mean, it's miserable for the people around you. But
So again, going back to the fight or flight, if you are instead retraining your mind, that because we're as humans now, we create so many things into this fight or flight, even though we're not actually going to die from it. Right. Which is our body does think that we are going to, and that's why we get these, instinctual bodily things that click and go into play. But if we can reprogram with gratitude to see the tiger not as a tiger,
yeah, right.
Yep.
so then you're actually not. If you can look at it with gratitude and say, you know what, this is horrible, but I am going to see it for what it is, and that it is bringing up such beauty in me and such the things that I've needed to change in my life. It's bringing it up.
Yes.
So you know what? Actually, Tiger, thank you.
Yes.
And so it's not gonna the next time it happens, that's still there's still things that might be triggering, but the trigger can slowly go away,
Right.
because you're actually retraining what that attacker really is, and that it's not that.
When you're just seeing something, like you said, like if it's, how can you say something good about the villain of your story? How can you find something to be grateful about the person that you feel? Because if I find something that I'm grateful for about this person, then that means they're off the hook. Yeah. And then that means they're never going to have to apologize to me and all of this stuff and know how they made me feel and all of this stuff. But if I look at someone that I believe has hurt me, and I find something not even about the situation, something about them that I'm grateful for. I've found in my personal life when I've used gratitude as a tool in my life, especially in relationship situations, in just the deep dive of healing, it has saved me from becoming very bitter about
say the resentfulness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because when things are difficult, when the world around us feels out of control, when these things happen, it's so easy to quickly feel powerless and to become bitter about situations in life that feel out of our control. But when I found that I find something in either a person, a system, a group of people, anything that I can be grateful for, that I can see the good, or even like you said, what are you bringing up in me? I'm grateful for you, that you have been something in my life that has brought something out in me that I can look at. I find that I'm more quick now to lead with compassion, or I get there quicker than if I always am looking at someone in a negative way. I'll even notice till this day, if I'm in a conversation with someone and they're telling me something that, those conversations you have where someone just kind of tells you what they were thinking about your life or something, and it catches and you're like, why would you say that to me? It hurts. And then all of a sudden you start having this narrative in your mind of going, oh my gosh, why are they saying that about me? How could they be so mean?
Are they a bad person?
Are they bad?
Do I need
what
to
is
start
wrong with
saying
them?
that they're toxic to be around?
Right. And then do I need to put a wall up? Do I need to do all this stuff? And then all of a sudden I'll notice, because I've created gratitude as a new pathway in my mind, I'll go, what do I love about this person? And instead of this wall shooting up, I go, you know what? Remember that one time that they did this for me and it made me feel so loved?
So in that, then you actually are helping yourself, because you potentially are not causing yourself to hurt as much, because then you can see what is the real perspective of this whole thing.
So healing.
And then
It's
I'll
so
go, you know
healing.
what? Maybe they're just having a bad day, and that's why they would say that to me.
you can sort it better.
And then I'll actually be able to see, do I need to say something? Or do I need to give them grace? And gratitude has given me that perspective a lot with people. And even like Alyssa said, we're going through a lot of emotional pain right now, relationally, with some people in our life. And like I said, gratitude has helped me not be bitter, because bitterness sets in quickly. When you
bitterness will not ever lead you to healing.
No, it will not.
You cannot be on the path of bitterness and find your healing.
Right.
You're going to need a different path.
And now I look at this situation because I have practiced gratitude, and I'm like, I can't believe that I've had the gift to live through a situation like this, because I believe I have allowed it to help me be the best version of myself so far. Because I have looked at what it's done. And at moments I thought I wasn't going to come back from this. This is it. This is where I die.
I thought this is the one that would take me down.
It's been pain and tears and lots of deep, deep, deep sadness. But I didn't let it take me down, because I chose to see, you know what? Gratitude also lets you see the part that you've played. Because if it's just all one-sided, it's all this, it's all them. But if I start thinking towards them with loving thoughts and what I'm grateful for them, then I can see it with perspective.
Oh, that's so true.
And see the part that I've played. And I can take ownership. And when I start taking ownership for me and gratitude, once again, that's where my power is. That's when I'm no longer powerless. I have power in those places, even in pain, even when you feel the world's against you. When you find the part that you played because of gratitude, that's where your power is. And I feel like gratitude has revolutionized so much of this. And that's why I feel this talking about the deep work, it energizes us, because we do have a lot of perspective. We're not swept away by the sadness and all that stuff. And we are creating those pathways of gratitude and love while looking at the pain. And I just think it's a very powerful place to live.
Well, I was even thinking as you were talking, one of the first things I feel people dive into in their journey of healing is the pain from our past, the pain from our childhood. And I see so often that it's become a bit more popular to make your parents it's a very black and white story. They are the villain of the story. We put everything on them and we walk away. Yep. We were the powerless little victims. They were the problem. Bye-bye. And now I'm going to go heal.
And if my parents were perfect,
Yes.
then I would have been
Yes.
perfect and not had any problems.
Oh, really? But I feel, again, we have amazing parents. Do you know how many sessions I've still had to do because perception is my reality? Yep. And guess what, world? We are not raised by perfect humans. Like if we put this,
It'd be scary if we were.
right?
Also, we'd be really weak if we
Yes.
were.
Right?
That we put this as adults sometimes, so often when we start the deep dive, we think it's going to be easier if we blame everything on them or if we don't put, it's perspective because we still do have to acknowledge we were raised by people in process. Most of our parents were like 20 years old when they were can you imagine me at 20 raising children? My kids would all be in
I'm
therapy
already worried
right
at
now.
my age having kids.
My
I'm
gosh.
gonna mess them up. I know it. I'm
Actually,
already like
parents-
money away for their therapy fund. Like there's just
Parents would always come to my parents when they were raising us and they'd always be like, what is your number one recommendation for raising kids? And they'd be like, start saving up now for therapy. Because we are imperfect humans.
no matter how hard you try.
Right.
It's
not going to happen.
They are people in process, in the process of their undoing, their children having children.
Yeah.
And so I learned early on gratitude was my best tool for grounding so that I didn't bomb my relationships with my parents or my family members as I was journeying in my journey of healing, because a lot of old pain is going to be brought up. And it's so easy to get tunnel vision and be like, oh my gosh, that's where that came from, that memory or the lack of what they were able to give to me in that area. And so instead of blaming, gratitude, I would so say I was doing a lot those few months on father wounds, right? And I would spend a lot more time in that season finding little stories from when I was a kid of where my dad really shone, like where he was like amazing. And I would anchor into those places so that I could heal any places where I had pain from being raised by an imperfect father and being raised by an imperfect mother. And my kids
having
will have to do the
imperfect
same.
siblings.
Right? And my kids will all have to do the same. They will have to heal from me.
Right. Well, I think a big thing that I do too, what you were saying, I like the looking at those different memories. I also look at my parents as kids.
right.
You know?
That's huge.
And that's the thing that it's like, oh, well, their parents, like they have certain things that they had to deal with. And then their parents, it's just if you keep going down, you're like, oh, wait a second.
Once again, you're leading with compassion.
Yes, exactly.
You're going,
Yeah.
it is compassion, and compassion has to be so huge in this.
But do you realize when
cycle.
you remember their past, you rehumanize them?
Yes, exactly.
So it actually
Exactly.
takes away the narrative that they're the villain of your story.
Right.
They become just another human in your story again. Yeah. Because when someone stays a human in your story, they're always worthy of compassion and love, whatever it is.
Right.
When they're the villain, you can keep giving them rejection and you never feel guilty about.
Well, you actually feel powerful when you do because they're the bad guy.
Yeah.
right.
And
So-
so when you consider their story, like say you're healing from stuff from your parents. So say you're going into that. I actually would recommend people sit down with their parents and be like, and don't do it like, I'm healing from you. Talk to me about your past so I can remember you're not the bad guy.
Right.
Like sit down and have conversations and be like, tell me about your dad. Tell me about your mom. What was your relationship like? Did you feel loved? Start to observe their language. Start to observe their story. Because what you'll find out is so many things that I was able to heal from my siblings or, my gosh, I think Lauren and I have done sessions about our perception even.
Of course.
Because we're not perfect siblings.
Your
And
perception of each other.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like when Lauren did this, it caused me to feel rejected when we were kids.
Well,
You've
that's
gotta heal
totally
that
on you
stuff.
because I am perfect.
Right,
So
exactly.
you're going to need to deal with that.
But, so often when you remember, I don't know, their story and then you can dive into your own. a lot of times it was like, oh, well, they weren't able to give me this. They weren't able to give me compassion, or this sibling can't give me compassion. But when you allow yourself to see their pain, the wounds of their past, and then I look and go, wow, I really want compassion from them. And I can click into, I'm going to treat someone the way I want to be treated. And so then I can click into that of going, I'm going to bring a little bit more compassion to this relationship. I'm going to begin to lead, because again, once I'm grounded in gratitude, once I have the perspective that we're all humans, all in pain, I'm able to lead in compassion. Yeah. I'm able to lead in forgiveness. I'm able to begin to flow into even a broken relationship, what I would like to see begin to grow and flourish. And I don't need to put the demand on them to create it. I can create it because I'm powerful.
And it starts even with turning that emotion inwards first to yourself.
Oh gosh, yeah.
All of those things that you're first going to show outwardly, it's even more so showing it first of all to yourself,
because
too.
you can't authentically keep giving to others what you refuse to give to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're hoping to get it from somebody else and then you'll finally feel it,
But is that why we hold people hostage to those things?
Exactly.
Because we're not giving it to ourselves first.
Right.
And so even gratitude for ourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the first step.
Right.
Maybe loving ourselves first, gratitude for ourselves, and then the people in our circle.
Right.
And even going back to the parental thing, I think there are a lot of people that don't have that kind of connection with their parents. We know a lot of people that have done this healing journey that their parents would never talk to them about anything and actually completely pretend like nothing did happen in their past.
They might even be gaslighting you as you're going through your healing.
I've seen a lot of that, but what I love about those people in my life is they still find that something to be grateful for, and that allows them to heal without making their parents the villains of all time, even though they easily could be. Right. And so it's like that to me, when I see that in my friends or people's lives, when they go, no, I know that happened to me, but I'm going to choose to go, but I wonder what their childhood was like. Yes. I wonder what happened to them when they were kids, because you give what you've been given, And so, but it's the people that go, but I'm going to change the narrative. I'm going to change it for me. I'm going to do it a little bit better. I don't know.
I'm not going to punish you for being less than what I needed. Yeah. I'm going to learn how to cultivate it for myself. Right. Yeah. So I can take the demand off of you to be everything I need. Yeah. I can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the times that me and my mom ever got into like a bigger fight, I was so angry. And it was so funny because it was like in that split moment, for some reason, because I was in full, fight or flight, whatever. Or flight, yeah. But something came over me, and I don't know if it was a conscious choice or what, but I just pictured her and realized, oh, literally what just happened here has been her whole timeline, has been her whole story. Whoa. So as much as that hurt me in that moment, I started bawling my eyes out.
Oh, right there
in that moment. And my entire posture changed. I was like, oh, wait a second. Yes, this hurt in the moment. She's dealt with this for a long time. And so to have instead, to realize a lot of the things that these people are, the situations that you're pushing up against with different people is just what's going on and has been going on with them for a while or their whole lives, And so in that, I think there is this perspective. And for me, in going through the different levels of healing, I've had to go back to my parents, not had to, but I've gone back to my parents because they still have younger kids. And so sometimes I'll be like, well, I learned this. I had to go to a session for this. And maybe with the younger girls, whatever. And they're so open and they're so teachable.
Yeah, they're so sweet about it.
It's amazing.
So
they're they have the most,
But they also do their hearts.
They do. They really do. Lives. Yeah. But they, they've come to me a few times and just been like, hey, I'm so sorry that this happened or whatever. And I'm like, let me just tell you something. And I've said this a couple times to them. I'm like, thank you for literally everything. For everything. Because where I'm at right now in my life, I am so thankful for where I'm at.
Literally tearing up. That's like the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
Oh, I'm gonna cry now.
It's so sweet.
But,
Do you know how much that probably meant to them?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so sweet.
But to
I'm gonna call my mom.
Guys, call someone you love.
first tears on the podcast,
Right? And we
I'm
knew
surprised it didn't happen the first one being all
I know.
ladies
We
here.
knew it would be me though. We knew. I think even on our Instagram, mine said,
Oh yeah, cries a lot. Yeah,
I do.
but I just said one less thing to happen, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah.
One slight diversion.
Yep.
You know, every single thing that has happened in my life has led me to where I'm at today, and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful to literally every single person that's hurt me, every situation that's hurt me, for every accident, all of them, every single thing. And so to now be able to look at everything as a gift is then gives you perspective then for the future things that happen, to then be able to look at it and be like, well, I've gone through this, but then you can see that all this other stuff that you have survived, you then can look at what's coming up in the future and being like, you know what? Okay, I can be grateful for even this, because I've been able to transform into gold. Yes. And so in that, you know, here, I guess I'll have to turn, I'll be richer now.
Well,
of more gold.
It's almost like we live in the mindset that we have to judge and destroy anyone who's brought resistance into our life.
Right.
And we live in this mindset of like, well, now I'm going to reject you because you were the person that brought resistance. How are muscles going to be built any other way?
Right.
That's like living in the narrative of like, we always talk about like working out, but like of being like, I want to be super fit and super muscular, but I'm going to be so pissed off at any bit of weights that I have to lift. And it's like, how do you think it's going to happen?
Right.
And what you did and what you've done, and I feel like what we've done with our family and with our parents and our friends and ourselves is to learn to be grateful for the resistance.
Yeah.
To learn to be grateful for the strong opposing wind that was the only way that the sails could work.
Yeah.
You know, and I think so often if we have the mindset that life has to be easy, love needs to feel convenient. No one needs to hit up against who I am. You need to agree with me at all times.
Yep.
You need to manage me, and those are the only people I'm surrounded by. Well, I bet you're probably a pretty weak person.
Yeah.
Well, with the working out example, something I thought of a few days ago was we are all given weights. We can't avoid it. We're given that resistance. So we can either walk around like a scrawny, very weak person with like 50 to 100 pound, weights that we're carrying, and everyone can see that we're carrying them,
dragging
them, like
in misery,
exactly.
Self-pity.
Or we can literally use them to get stronger, and all of a sudden they could look like little toothpicks in our hand, that it's not a thing anymore. Right. And so it doesn't have that hold.
And you could begin to acknowledge, wow, this 50-pound weight, that was from that person.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of grateful.
Yeah.
Because look at my muscles.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that little 100-pound weight, that was from that moment from my past. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like the mindset of like, I'm so grateful there was, I'm just, sometimes I hear it get out of balance of just like, I'm so grateful I was abused. Like there are so many things where there's a fine line between I'm grateful for what was strengthened in me through the trauma. Exactly. But I don't sit there. There are certain traumas in my past. I do not sit there because they're evil.
Right.
They're evil. I'm not going to sit there with something that's literally to me like from hell.
Yes.
And just be like, again, I don't want to swing the other way.
Absolutely. There's balance in everything.
The gratitude.
But it's what you said. It's being thankful for what it brought up. Yes. For what you allowed it to do in your life.
There was a balance there. Because so often, you hear people just swing so far the other way. Yeah. But even in that, it kind of gets us out of doing the hard work again. Because if I just say, no, that was always meant to happen to me, and I'm just so thankful for it, it's kind of living in that, woo, you know, I'm just floating away into gratitude, but you're never dealing with the, but I still have a lot of self-hatred coming up in my life, you know? Yeah. And so it's that fine line. You got to walk that fine line of going, I'm grateful for these parts and that, no. You know, and I don't despise it. I don't have negative energy towards it. Yeah. It is what it's something that simply happened.
Well, but you can, like I said before, you can easily sort things now. Mm-hmm. So you can just say, this was wrong. I'm grateful for what this brought up. But I can still look, even though I look at people as gifts, situations as gifts, all this sort of stuff, it's not like I necessarily want that to happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're that I'm like,
welcome to it all the time.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. And I can also say that was a very toxic behavior that they had towards me. And maybe I do need to put up a boundary at some point or now or whatever. And I can just say, you know what? That's just more of a waste of my energy than actually I've gone through, I've dealt with what it brought up in me enough that I don't just need to like sit in it anymore, you know? Right. And so I think gratitude does help you. It helps you sort things. Oh, yes. You know?
Instead of like in those situations where something happens to you or someone does something that you feel, you know, towards you in a negative way, a lot of times what I see happens before we have that perspective and being able to sort things is all of a sudden we get sucked into that and then we become a part of this bigger chaos. Like, and all of a sudden when those things happen, all of a sudden we're in chaos and is it real? Is what they're saying true? And it's so chaotic and it's so like, who am I? Who are they? Where is this chaos, this pain, this hurt? But the gratitude, the work, the meditations, all of it makes me know exactly where I am in the moment. And I might get knocked down a little bit or like, you know, whatever, but I know where I stand because we've done the work. Right. And like, even just talking about all of this so much, I'm getting so excited because I think if we realized how powerful we could feel by doing this work, I think this work, it's scary. It's unknown. It's, you know, it's just, it's scary because we don't know if we're going to get lost in it. Yeah. But when you do these things and have these practices and you're able to be grateful for what we've learned in pain and chaos, the type of person that you can become is unbelievable. Yeah. You find this inner strength that you didn't know you can have. You have this feeling of being grounded when the storms of life are raging around you. There's a stillness inside of you. And it doesn't mean, like I said, that you don't get knocked down, that you don't get hurt, that you don't deal with things. But the coming back is so much quicker. Yeah. I don't notice myself getting thrown into the storms as quickly now because I know who I am. I'm able to see people and I'm able to see myself. I'm able to have that separation. And the power that you can feel here is one of the greatest things that I never knew I could feel. And I can't believe I'm actually living in it.
Well, I feel like Mom phrased it so well. I was texting my mom this morning and she's just dealing. Is everyone dealing with so much pain right now? I feel so. Like it's
We're
crazy.
Living in crazy times right now. It's
and so she was
crazy.
She was processing something this morning and you know just sitting there and dealing with this stuff and all of a sudden you know and for Mom she was praying and she just suddenly she was like I'm so disappointed, you know, there was such a deep feeling of disappointment and all of a sudden she felt, Marianne, you can have disappointment, but disappointment doesn't have to have you. And when she texted me that, I was like, Mom, I'm using that because that to me sums up everything we're talking about. I can have pain, but pain doesn't have to have me. Pain doesn't get to call the shots. I can navigate through it. And gratitude is that grounding practice that allows you to go, my disappointment right now might be feeling so overwhelming. And I can have it. I'm not denying that it's not there. I see it in my hands. I see it in my life. I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my mind. But it will not have me. Yep. It will not call the shots on what my days look like, and it will not call the shots on what my healing looks like, or lack of healing. I am powerful. I will call the shots, but I will not deny that I do have pain. Yes. And gratitude is that beautiful grounding practice that allows you to have a negative or painful feeling without it having you.
And I think a big thing too in gratitude is the actual practice of it is when you're looking at these different things, and like we said, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's not just like, I'm thankful for that cup. Right. It's like, okay, like in my body, what do I feel about this? What can I actually, and because fight or flight, which is kind of the biggest thing that we're combating in all these areas, that is a very bodily thing. Like your vagus nerve actually triggers down into all of your organs and it causes it to go into overdrive. So it's not even something that's just a mental thing. It's such a bodily function. So we have to override it with another bodily energy. And so that's the whole idea of this within gratitude, making sure that you like go into your actual heart if you can. Yes. You know, and
I was going to say, it's taking it from your head, a thought,
yes,
and moving it into your soul, your heart, your feeling system,
your actual feeling system. Because I can have a lot of thoughts about just whatever, and it's not going to change much. No, and it can just fly away. But if I just physically sit with it, and kind of imagine what that feels like, and imagine, you know, even something for maybe it's looking at the whole situation and still not being able to find what you're grateful for in that situation, but knowing that this is a season that I'm in right now. Yes. And a picture that I thought of within seasons is that seasons don't stay. So you might be in the winter, but we're guaranteed the spring. Yes. Right. And so to be even grateful that, you know what, I'm thankful that I'm in the winter because there's a replenishing that happens right now. There is a rest that happens right now, or there's a darkness that happens right now that has to happen so that spring can happen. Yes. And so knowing that there, even if that's the only thing that you can grasp onto, is that, you know what, I'm just grateful that there's a new season ahead, you know? Yes. And so
even I was thinking, because it is hard when the situation's intense, it's very difficult to find what to be grateful for. And with this current situation I'm in, I couldn't find what to be grateful for. And because I'm so used to that practice now, I was like, what can I even find? And in the beginning, probably the first few weeks, I would try to pull it into my heart and go, what can I be grateful for? And for a while, I want to say for a few weeks, I said, I am grateful for what this will strengthen inside of me. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I couldn't tether into the present. I couldn't tether into the past. And so my version of gratitude in that moment was hope. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'm grateful that I'm going to yield to this moment, and I guarantee I will be a better person coming out of this. Yeah. So for a while, my only gratitude was, I know there's going to be a spring. I know that this is a moment, and I'm not going to drag it out. Yep. I have the tools to yield to it. I have the people that are going to help me, and I'm grateful for what it is going to produce inside of me, in my life, and in turn then I can pour out to people around me.
But because you're using that with gratitude is still bringing that feeling of what you might have in the future into right now, so you actually are being in the moment.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you still are, you're not even going into you're bringing that future maybe feeling or whatever, and being able to live in it within the moment then.
I love that. I didn't see it that way. I like that.
Yeah.
So I was in the present. So A+ for me, because all this is graded. Yes. In my mind, we all get graded.
And even too, if you're looking for a practical way of doing things, there's so many things on like gratitude journals. Mm-hmm. There's so many things online that you can find. I know a lot of people that do that, and a lot of people that even in this season with being in lockdown, with all of this stuff, I know a lot of, friends of mine that are like, keep a gratitude journal. They're like, it helped me with my depression. It helped me with being alone. It helped me with this because I would find the things that I was grateful for in my day. And so there's so many resources online.
You even mentioned something today. You said a lot of people have like gratitude buddies. Like have somebody
They say like a good practice is to find a person that you literally talk about the things that you're grateful for 2 minutes a day. And you both just go back and forth and go, this is what I'm so grateful for in my day. And like you have someone that keeps you accountable in gratitude. Yeah. Even like little practices. You don't have to start by this huge one that we're talking about of like the people that have hurt you, be grateful, but don't start there. Start or do start there. I don't know, but you can start somewhere small. Like Alyssa said, I'm grateful for my bedroom set. Like there's so many ways to start, but know that once you start, it's going to be the greatest feeling because one, it's literally releasing chemicals in your brain that make you happier. You're creating new pathways in your brain, but then like your perspective changes. Things that seemed so heavy before, you can carry them a little bit lighter with perspective.
Because I think you're slowly retapping back into your personal power.
Absolutely.
You're realizing once more, okay, I am more powerful than I realized. Little by little, that starts to, it's that reminder starts to happen again.
And this also helps, gratitude really does help with the healing process because it actually does help give you perspective on inside of you kind of where those triggers are even going off. Because like I think you were saying at the very beginning, when you like when you are grateful for these different things, there's going to be things that are kind of like, no, I don't want to, I don't, whatever. And if there's any type of pushback, you can then be like, I found you. You know?
That's so true.
And so
true.
that's a great way to even possibly start into healing is being like finding what you're grateful for and seeing where in your body you feel resistance, you know?
Because you'll notice it right away when something in your mind goes, no, don't make me rewrite that story. Do not make me rewrite. I will not tell a new story around that. Right. And so you'll find that very quickly and you go, aha, I will start there. Thank you. Like, and you just keep a note. I had a catch there today. I had a catch on that memory. I had a catch there. And you just, again, you observe, you become a student, and then you kind of know where to start.
And you can go into meditation and all this too. There's like gratitude meditations. There's all of that. Yeah. So
it's really all unto us being our most powerful selves.
That's right.
That lead with compassion and love. Like it's being rooted and grounded in love and compassion and thinking the best, but also becoming a whole person. Dealing with all of these things, but
and in the process of healing, and you hit on it earlier, even if you start your practice with gratitude towards yourself. Sometimes that's the hardest place. For me, that was the hardest place to start. Absolutely. So my gratitude practice started in my teen years when I had eating disorders. So before I could be grateful for anything around me, I had a 10-year gratitude practice for myself, for my face, and, you know, like my height and how I looked, and taking away the power I had given to self-hatred. And restoring the power I have for self-love. That gratitude practice is the only thing that really got me there. Yes, I did sessions. Yes, I did all that other stuff. But meditating in gratitude is what got me out of that cycle, and being grateful for myself. That was one of the most offensive things I had to learn to be grateful for.
And that's this year specifically is one of the biggest things that I've been really working on, and it has 100% transformed how I see myself. I literally went from very much questioning myself, very much, not sure where like, just because there was a lot of pushback, a lot of rejection, and for years, and not like kind of a reaffirmation of the things that maybe I liked about myself. So I like kind of questioned all those areas, and I just spent time this year like looking over everything, all my personality traits, my body, just everything, and it was like it hit this point probably, I would say mid-year, maybe earlier this year, where I was like, I really like myself. Wow. I really, like, it was like overwhelming, but it was because I started looking over and acknowledging, and I was like, wow, I love this. And oh my gosh, like, I'm thankful for my legs, and all this. And I like the areas that I've really despised, I all of a sudden, even in the place that like I'm not necessarily maybe where I want to be with my body or something like that, but all of a sudden I have more love for it than even when I was skinnier.
And self-love is the most important. That is the top thing, the most important thing that I believe we can get to through practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
So gratitude. Obviously, we could go on and on about this subject, but I'm grateful for you two. I'm grateful for this podcast.
I'm grateful for you guys.
I'm
grateful
grateful that we have talked about doing a project together for about 15 years.
Yep.
And here we are.
Here we are.
So
Sarah and I probably talked about
so
it since we were like
thankful.
4. Like, you know, like let's do something together.
I'm grateful you two finally let me into this.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm grateful for everybody that's listening and
Yes.
watching, you guys. I don't know. We
Yeah.
love you guys. Thank you
Yes.
for connecting with us and listening to us.
And being a part of the conversation.
I know.
Until next time.
Yes.
Bye.